Hey, welcome to PopNerd Talks, and in this video I'll be introducing some visual storytelling concepts to help unify and set the right mood in 3D environments. I went over some composition tips in the last video, and today we'll continue to explore more specific aspects of environment design, including camera angles, some lighting techniques, and world building. The main goal of this video is to help you get a better understanding of what can be done to elicit an emotional response to an environment scene. Regardless of the actual content of your scene, the visual cues from the presentation of an environment, such as the camera angle and lighting, can heavily impact how a viewer perceives your work. Let's first take a look at how different camera angles and positions can reveal inferences of the same subject. Starting with the most basic of camera angles, the eye-level shot, also referred to as the neutral shot, is a simple yet effective angle to immerse a viewer into your scene. If the subjects in your scene are at eye level to the camera, and therefore the viewer will more likely feel as if they're part of the shot due to the neutral angle. Eye level angles are great for objective representations of your scene, but may be lacking in the ability to elicit an emotional response from the viewer. Alternatively, a high shot where the camera is looking down at the subject from a greater height can help add some context to what's going on in your scene. A high angle can often imply that the main subject of your scene is in a contained or vulnerable state. Unlike neutral shots, high angle shots are more likely to elicit an emotional response from the viewer as they literally look down upon the subjects of your scene. Low angle shots, on the other hand, have the opposite effect of high angle shots, as they can portray the subjects of the scene as powerful or dangerous to the viewer. Just the act of looking up towards a focal point could be seen as subliminal messaging that the focal point has a higher authority. You can also slightly rotate your camera sideways to create what's known as the Dutch angle to convey unease or disorientation. While this angle is useful for environments in which the viewer is supposed to feel uncomfortable, relying on this angle too much could be too disorienting and annoying for the viewer. For all of these shots, the intensity of the angle can also change what you're trying to convey and the strength of that feeling. You'll see these terms most often used in filmmaking and photography where the main subjects of the scene are people, and these camera angles can be very effective at conveying emotion when paired with the facial expressions of those people. Though these components may not always be present in an environment shot, there are still many other ways to elicit emotion through your work alongside camera angles, with lighting and color being very important aspects. To create a visual mood in your scene, the lighting and colors can give a lot of visual context to the viewer. Starting with lighting, the amount of light in your scene and the positioning of your lighting can convey a lot about your scene. It's important to note, however, that the lights and colors in your scene will affect each other, so you'll want to keep one in mind while working on the other. Darker environments with selective lighting tend to be more intriguing and mysterious, while lighter environments are better at conveying positive emotions. There can obviously be multiple sources of light in your scene, but just using one or two main lights to create the contrast can be very effective at making your environment more dramatic and grabbing a viewer's attention. This can be done through a variety of different lighting positions and angles to convey different feelings. Standard overhead lighting with the light above the main subject can make an environment feel natural and approachable, while adding light sources below the main subject pointing upwards can increase feelings of unease and horror. In fact, this type of lighting is often used with actors in horror movies to make them more intimidating. However, you'll find that the best place to place your main light will often be somewhere in between. Creating light-dark contrast through shadows and well-lit areas can make a huge difference, as it can give your work a more dramatic feel, especially when your main subject is only partially lit. Having specific areas, such as the foreground of your scene, be dark and other areas be lit can show the disparity between two locations in the same scene. Using different light intensities can also be used to essentially create leading lines that lead the viewer's eyes towards a focal point. This is most effective when used with volumetrics. Once again, the best lighting angle to use can vary depending on the scale and subject of your scene. I recommend often collecting random references, both good and bad, from photos and other scenes, because over time you'll start to notice certain aspects of these references that either add or take away from your scene. And once you gain an understanding of how and why certain lighting positions work, you'll be able to apply those to your own work. Knowing how lights and shadows work in the real world is very helpful, especially when trying to make photorealistic scenes. Another great source that really gets technical and goes in depth with lighting is Blender Guru's lighting series. Carl Poiser also has a great video on cinematic lighting in Blender, which has helped me a lot with my renders. Alongside lighting, the colors that you use in a scene also convey emotion. Analogous colors are closer together on the color wheel, while complementary colors are opposite to each other. Analogous colors will soften each other and are more calming, while complementary colors will intensify each other and can make subjects stand out by making them vibrant. Knowing and using these concepts can help you create focal points and create balance in your scene. The colors in your scene can also be warm or cool. Warmer colors such as orange, red, and yellow are good at creating an energetic mood in your scene, while cooler colors such as blue and green are good at creating calmer moods. Specific colors can also trigger certain responses from the mind. Red can symbolize power and danger. Green can symbolize peace and safety. Blue can be perceived as calming, orange as fascinating, purple as imaginative, and so on. Studying color theory and just paying attention to colors in art, as well as the real world, can help if you're looking to get a better understanding of how to apply colors in your scene. Colors can also convey different meanings and moods in different cultures. For example, red in Western countries can symbolize danger, while it can symbolize purity and good luck in Eastern countries. And this brings us to the next part of the talk, which is world building. While the camera positioning, lighting, and colors in your scene can give your viewer emotional context about the environment, the subjects and the detail of your scene bring it to life. After choosing your setting and the main subject of your scene, you can start to give that scene more depth by thinking of the imaginary world that your environment is placed in, and thinking about the world's unique qualities, such as its history, geography, and culture. This process is known as world building and is essential if you want to create an environment that's unique and immersive. Ian Hubert has a great talk about world building that he gave at a Blender conference a couple years ago, and I totally recommend checking that out, especially if you're working with Blender. I'll mention some of the things he covers in that talk, as well as some other tips I found to be helpful. Starting off, the main point of world building is to make your scene look like it's been lived in. Whether this is from subtle cues such as footprints and dirt, or from more obvious ones such as stickers and billboards, the process of world building will start to create rules for your world that your scene is taking place in. These rules will help create a general setting for your world, and once you have the basics such as the location, time period, and the occupants of the world, you can move on to more specific aspects such as the history, currencies, religions, magic systems, and more. Once you create the basic rules, you can start to think of what sort of cultures would develop in such a world. This will show the viewer that there's a lot more going on beyond what they see in the render, making the experience more immersive. Using references to find inspiration for the subjects of your scene can make world building a lot easier as well. Noticing the small details in pictures, such as wires going up a wall, pieces of trash littered on a road, or random signs scattered throughout a city, can help you understand how these small details can give a lot of context about the world. Often with city settings, importing your references as image textures to use as buildings, signs, and more can make the process a lot easier as well. I also like to create my own sign packs with different styles so I can use those throughout my projects without having to worry about finding image textures for every sign and sticker. Studying references can also help you gain a better understanding of how the everyday world uses aspects of design to express different emotions. For example, certain shapes in architecture can convey different feelings. As seen in movies like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, shapes with sharp edges do a better job at conveying fear and authority, while rounder, less pointy shapes are good for representing safe locations. There are obviously plenty of other design concepts that could be applied to environmental work, and I haven't gone too in-depth into the concepts covered in this video, so if you guys would like to hear more about something in specific or a totally new concept, let me know below in the comments. And I hope this video was useful, and I'll see you guys next time.